This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Hi, this is Hannah Berner from Giggly Squad. Have you ever put on a bra that makes you feel like a goddess? Prepare to be obsessed with the Dream Angels Wicked Bra from Victoria's Secret, the iconic brand behind the world's most comfortable bras. And I only wear the most comfortable bras. The bestseller features an innovative sling for perfect lift without padding, and the fit is chef's kiss. Awaken your inner goddess with new colors and super femme lace embroidery. Find out why this bra has thousands of 5-star reviews and counting. Shop it in stores and online at victoriassecret.com.
That new thing? Yeah, we've got it. The Drop by GNC, bringing you all the newness that matters, handpicked by the pros who actually know what's up and what's proven to work. We keep you on top of the trends and dialed into what's next. Whether you're crushing it at the gym, leveling up your game, or thriving every day, The Drop by GNC is where the latest solutions in health and wellness land first. Non-stop innovation and fresh finds daily. Explore what's new and what's next on The Drop by GNC.
Hello and welcome back to the Psycholegal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm Tess Brigham. I'm the therapist.
And I'm Brooke Brigham. I'm the attorney.
And we are back. We are covering the Netflix documentary American Murder, Gabby Petito. And I'm sure many people are aware of this story. So high level, Brooke, what did you think of this documentary?
I think the documentary was very well made, the way that they told the story. Because I mean, I've heard of this case, but I always kind of avoided it because it is upsetting to me. You know, I have a 21-year-old daughter, and it was, so I kind of avoided it. And I knew a bit about it. And so when we decided to watch it, it was like, okay, here I go, brace myself. And because it's disturbing, and it's, you know, it's about domestic violence. And, you know, we just finished covering
OJ,
you know, the OJ Simpson case. And we've covered Nicole Brown's family's documentary and other documentaries about domestic violence. And, you know, it's very predictable. It's very predictable. It can happen to anybody. It's the same signs, the same patterns. And one of the good things that does come out of this is that her family was instrumental in getting a law passed in Florida that requires police, whenever they encounter a domestic violence situation, to ask 12 questions. And maybe we could go through them at the end of this, but they're very good questions, very thorough, and touching on all of the different issues that could lead to death. You know, they are trying to prevent death because, like I said, this is very predictable. And if you don't get away from your abuser, they will kill you eventually.
Yes.
So, and this guy, her boyfriend that killed her, Brian, something's wrong with him because something's really wrong with his family.
Oh, yeah. His mother, especially.
Yeah. They were horrible throughout this experience and helped him to evade the police. And so, yeah, I guess high level, that's what I thought. What about you?
Well, I had heard obviously about the case, but I did watch a documentary. I want to say it was she passed away in 2021. So then maybe it was like 2022 that I saw the documentary. So it's been a little bit, but I knew a bit about her story. I knew about her family, and this one was the documentary that I watched that was very much from the eyes of her family. Obviously, his family's not cooperating. But this one gave a lot more details because we now can see all of the footage. We can see all of this footage that had never been released before.
Mhm.
We have her diaries. We can see what was on her camera, on her phone, what was on his phone, everything. So we have a much better sense of things. And before, it was very much about the story of Gabby and how could this happen. And now with this documentary, we do get a lot. I think we get I think I understand Brian a little bit more, not completely, but the family and maybe what was going on with them. I think in my mind, the way the story had always been told was that, the domestic violence side, the documentary that they did couple years ago, which was from the viewpoint of the parents didn't know the things that her friends were telling us. I think that part was very interesting, was the parents saw one side and heard things, but I think it was very valuable to hear from her friends and what she was saying to them and what was going on there. And that, I think, gave it a lot more depth.
Yeah.
And understanding.
Yeah, the friends were, they were a big part of this, and you're right, it added a lot more context.
Yes.
Because her parents were in New Jersey.
Long Island,
right. And she lived for a time with Brian and his parents in Florida, and then she was driving around in Utah. So they weren't there to see. All they could rely upon was what she told them on the phone. And of course, she's making it seem like everything's great.
Yeah. And I think what's really hard, I think no matter what age you are, right, you want and need your parents' love and approval. And it's obvious that Gabby was close to her parents, but she also just didn't feel comfortable telling them the extent of what was going on. And unfortunately, it sounds like there was a tremendous amount of manipulation, because there was a lot of manipulation around. It seems like there was a theme where it was very much about Brian telling her all the ways in which she's doing wrong. And I'm sure he made her feel like if I shared what was going on with my mother or father, then, I would be in trouble in some way, shape, or form. So.
And her parents would tell her to leave him.
Yeah.
And I think, and
that kind of sounds like they kind of were also.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of domestic violence, is that you want to leave, but you don't want to leave. So even if they told her, come home or whatever, she would, she'd say, no, it's okay. It's not that bad. All that kind of stuff. It's just, that's the pattern of it. And so, she didn't want them telling her, come home, they didn't want, I have a feeling that father, the stepfather would have gone out and found her and brought her home. If they knew. Yeah.
If they knew the extent of it. I will say one part that I always thought was that I think is really nice about this entire story is, and I remember that from the other documentary that I watched, is how well all of these people get along, and just how strong and how they work together. And we learn about Gabby. Her mother was 20 when she had Gabby. She and Joe, the father, were together 6 months. But it seemed like, I was just like, God, these are good people. That's what I remember from that documentary a couple of years ago. It's like, wow, she has 4 parents who love her and call her their daughter. Yeah. And that's really special.
The stepmother and stepfather were just as devastated by all of this as her biological parents. And they all work together to try to help her, try to find her, everything. So, and they work together to try to make something good come out of this and this legislation too.
Yeah. And I think that's the ending. I was crying at the end. I'm sorry. I had tears going when they went back to that place where she had passed away, and the orb and all of that. I was bawling. They had lost. They got me there. So that is one kind thing. I just remember thinking, wow, she was really loved. Like these 4 people really loved her. So She had a lot. She really was. I mean, you see all these videos of her. She was like a very bright, positive, happy star of a person. She really did sparkle and glow. You know, she really did, you know, she was the life of the party. She was.
She lit up a room.
Did light up a room. Gabby Petito did. But that was so clear. And then when you see these small moments of time where she would get annoyed or some, like, really what was going on would show up. I think that was very telling, which I think is very interesting about this documentary, because what this documentary was able to do that the other ones weren't, because they have all this raw footage, we were able to see sort of the moments where we're not just seeing them kissing and hugging and having a great time. We were seeing behind the scenes of what is this really like when two people you see them in these bathing suits under this beautiful sky and this pool or lake. You're thinking, oh my God, right? As we're scrolling through social media, what are we thinking? My life sucks. You know, I made a mistake somewhere. What's wrong with me? Why don't I have this life? And then with this, we could see the raw footage of her like breaking the embrace and the smile disappearing. And it's
right.
And that's why
it's really hard work. Yeah. It's hard work to make those videos. And I think that he, you know, one of her friends says early on that he thought this was stupid.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do this. He didn't want to be making vlogs and being on video. And he would try, you could tell he was trying to go along with it. But, you know, there's also, I'm sure she was smart enough to know that, you see a little bit of the coming down after they, you know, stop filming. But I think she was smart enough to know to turn that off.
Yeah.
Because the next level is him going off on her. You know, because we don't see him getting really angry and annoyed with her. You see him kind of building up to that. But we don't have any hard evidence of him. Again, it all comes from what she told her friends, and then what her friends would say. You know, she would tell her friends, oh, you know, he's really mad about this. And, you know, and then we see later on when they finally do encounter the police, she's telling the police that, you know, he was locked her out of the van, wouldn't let her get in the car. And he was, you know, punishing her for something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And somebody, I said, the happiest people on social media have the darkest skeletons.
Well, but listen, I have clients like this. I have people that I work with that I know they have horrendous marriages. And then I don't follow any of my clients on social media, but then they'll tell me about like then taking the family photo and everyone smiling and everyone looking good and everyone being happy. And that's what their partner wants, is for the facade to continue for the world to see. So, you know, I think that's one, I think this case and this story is very much about, like, there was a lot of fantasies, especially during the pandemic, around this van life living, this sort of idea of this, what it meant, what it means to be a content creator. And because we too are content creators here.
We are, and we can barely keep it together.
We can't even remember to take the photo half the time. We never remember to take photos or do any of that stuff. But it's hard. It's hard to build a following. It's hard to write all of those things that the world and maybe other social media people make it look so simple. Yeah. And it's not.
It's not at all. It's very, very hard work. It is a job. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to travel around and document this. Well, easier said than done, because it has to be well produced and slick, and you have to have all the equipment. And she had a drone.
Yeah, she had a lot of stuff.
She
really did.
Yeah.
And if you really think about it, like, she didn't put up her first video until like shortly before she passed away. So, I mean, that's the thing is that they were on the road for about 40 days before she produced anything, you know? And so that's why, because if you want something well edited, it's hard to do. Trust me.
She has to figure out how to use the equipment, and
he's not helping. He's not helping at all. And you got this guy going, this sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in your ear.
So it was only 40 days before she went missing?
Yes. So they left on their trip July 2nd, 2021. And okay, so I'm sorry. It was 41 days when the cops stopped them. So that was August 12th was 41 days. And so then she passed away, they believe, on the 27th. So that was 15 days later. So I want to say 56 days.
Wow.
So she put that video, her first video out, I want to say like August 19th, 20th, something like that. So that means that they were, it was a good 6 weeks before she produced anything. So that's the other part of it too, is it seems like this van life, I didn't realize this either, but it seems like the concept or the idea of doing this van life was very much Gabby's dream, but that he encouraged her to do it because he wanted to retain more control over her and isolate her, it sounds like. So it was almost kind of like he didn't really necessarily want to do this, but he did it to kind of have control of her.
Because he bought the van, right?
No, she bought the van. She was the registered owner of the van.
But
let's start at the beginning, because
I thought he gave her the money for it.
I don't think so. I don't remember that part. But no, the van was registered only to her, because when they found the van at the Laundrie's house in Florida, that's how the police were able to tow it, because his name wasn't on it at all. And so he should not have had possession of it. That was my understanding.
But then how would that allow him to have more control over her? Just being away from everybody because they're out driving around this van. There's no one to check on.
Yeah. So remember, I think it was her friend Rose who told us that. So at this time, they're in Florida. She's working at Taco Bell. She likes it. And she's trying to save money. And, those jobs don't pay well. So she's working like 50 hours a week. So that's a lot. And then I think she was a lovely person. So she made friends. And I think Rose and the Taco Bell people, I think she started to make friends. I think she started to enjoy her life. And I think she started to build a life away from him, outside of him. And then it sounds like, this is my theory, I think that he saw that and was like, oh, here's a way to get this. She wants to do this van life thing. I'm going to tell her I'm on board. Let's do it. And then we will go off together and everything will be okay.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And at the time they were living with his parents in Florida. And apparently his mom was very jealous.
Yes.
Of Gabby, and not nice to her. And Gabby wasn't comfortable there. So
yeah. So that's the thing. I guess both of them are from Long Island, both Gabby and Brian. And then they were friends. And it sounds like Brian was interested in that friend. There was another friend they interviewed. We never got her name. She was just a mutual friend.
Dark-haired.
Yeah. She was a mutual friend of Brian and Gabby's, but apparently Brian expressed interest in her, but I guess she wasn't into it. And then it sounds like stuff with Brian was very weird because he didn't go to college and he was a bit older. So he was just kind of wandering around, sleeping at a friend's house. And that's how the friend ended up saying hey, why don't you come and stay with us for a while? Because his parents had already moved to Florida. The whole thing was very weird, but they met in December of 2019. No, sorry. They met in March of 2019. And then in December of 2019, they decided to go down to Florida. And that's when they start living with his parents. And yeah, I mean, that whole thing was weird. Apparently the mom flipped the script real quick because the mom in the beginning was very, very nice, knitting her things, being too nice, being overly nice. And then all of a sudden something shifted and changed. And it made me think, I'm like, oh, so Brian's mom's a love bomber too. You know what I mean? A little bit. And then to the point where we're seeing text messages where she doesn't feel comfortable walking out into the living room because Brian's mom's mad at her for something that she has no idea what she did. I'm like, oh, apple doesn't fall far.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting out of there seemed like a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and her friends all thought, her friend Rose. So that's what's interesting too, is Rose was her friend that she met down in Florida. So she didn't have any history with Brian at all, the way some of these other friends did.
Mhm.
And that friend, Rose, clocked him as being something off, like that he had a dark side, that his art was dark. And
Mhm.
she, of course, knew all these stories that Gabby had told her.
Yeah, we saw one of his paintings or drawings. And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
weird.
Yeah. I have to say, I don't understand. There was a lot written about how they did this AI voice for Gabby when they were reading some of her diary entries, and people
Mhm.
were all worked up about it, but I didn't think it was that bad. I don't think it was
I didn't. find
I thought it was
problem.
it wasn't used that much. It was very
Yeah.
sparingly. And you wanted to have it sort of in her voice.
Right.
So I don't know.
I don't know what the problem is. Was that really her voice, like from a recording? Maybe people were upset because they took a recording, because she's got video of herself, and they took her voice and then put it through AI
Yeah.
to make it read that way.
Yeah.
People are very sensitive to this right now, this AI stuff, but whatever, it works for the movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But yeah, it was because Rose was saying that before the van life, Gabby was feeling really independent. And so, by June of 2021, that's when they decided to embark on this life.
and they got engaged.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the engagement.
But he didn't give her a ring, but a dragonfly landed on her finger, and
Yeah.
so that was a sign
that they should get married.
that they should get married. Oh God. Okay. All right. So they took off, and I don't know who said this. It must have been one of her friends, because they're the only people who gave any concrete information. But someone said Brian did not like the vlog idea. He was afraid of being caught on film being mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very interesting.
So very interesting. So they're on the road for 41 days. They're kind of getting their bearings, trying to figure out how to work all the equipment. And that van was real small.
It was very small. And also
small.
Right? Like they're arguing over the lights, and God, what can you make in that van? I mean, they must have been eating ramen or the hot plate. Yeah. I'm sorry. I wouldn't do that with anybody.
No.
There's no one. I mean, a day maybe, but I would not. I love my husband. I just kept thinking about, like, I want to kill him very quickly. There's no
privacy. There's no space. No, not for me.
No. I think that's the other thing. Again, I think it takes certain personalities to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And most people aren't cut out for it. So,
True.
Yeah.
True. So this is kind of where things start to heat up.
Mm-hmm.
So they are in Moab.
Yes.
Crossover for our Sister Wives fans.
Yeah, they go from Moab to Salt Lake City. I'm like, ooh, I'm tingly now.
How exciting.
Yes.
And so the Moab police start getting these 911 calls from people saying, there's this guy, driving erratically, and he's slapping his girlfriend or hitting his girlfriend. And then before they even have to pull him over, he sort of crashes into the sidewalk, and the car comes to a stop. And so the officers approach the car, and, she's crying, she's upset, and, they're like, what's going on? And then she starts to tell them that, he was mad at her and locked her out of the van, wouldn't let her in the van because of her OCD, because she was being too anxious, and she has OCD. And then was this when they did she show them a photo on her phone?
No,
of an eye injury, or
no. So they don't really go back to this, but that was a photo that had been taken but I don't know who took that photo and what the context was.
And who had it? Did the police have it?
I don't know. I wonder if she took it on her own phone and it was recovered later on.
Oh, okay.
That's what I wonder. Because I got the sense that was because when she showed up, she had sort of like the mark on her eye had been there, it looked like. But the shoulder, they said the shoulder thing was new. So she had an injury on her shoulder that was new.
Yeah. So she's got a few injuries, but so does he. And they seem to be more focused on his injuries than hers. And he's, the cops have separated them, and he's telling a couple cops one story and she's telling another story. And these cops kind of don't know what to do, but it really seems to me that they are treating her as the aggressor. And focusing on his injuries. And this one cop even says, sometimes, my wife, she gets worked up, and what really helps is if she just takes a nice hot shower.
Yeah. I love that solution.
Yeah. This is his advice to both of them. And that in the morning, you'll feel much better. This will all be better because they're going to separate them. Okay. So what do? They send him to a paid hotel for victims of domestic violence.
Yes.
And then they tell her, well, just take the van.
Get that shower.
Go take a shower. Yeah. He's like, there's a place over here where you can go take a shower. It costs $5. I mean, what they're sending her to like a campground or something to be alone and take a shower and sleep in the van while he's over here in a hotel.
Yeah. What I don't understand is, well, there's a lot of things I don't understand. One is, if you got reports and every report was a man was slapping a woman, not one report was she was the aggressor towards him, then you hear the stories. And I do believe that Gabby painted the picture and we saw it. She downplayed the violence. She downplayed that. She downplayed a lot of it. She was protecting him, and she made herself seem like the aggressor. But what I don't get is, this is now 2021.
Right.
And we know a lot more about domestic violence and what happens. You getting reports of a man being aggressive to a woman, and she's now covering for him. Why don't any of you stop and go, maybe he is the actual aggressor, because that's what's being reported by third parties. And that maybe, she's covering for him. Like, I don't get why they can't see that was what was happening.
Right. What happened to all their training?
Yes.
I mean, that you're right. That is a classic sign, and they should have picked up on that. And one of the police officers, they just don't know what to do. And one of them acknowledges that, she's probably just, if we let them go, leave here together, then it could lead to her being killed.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't know what to think of this scene. And then there was a female officer who she was also she says, well, I'd rather be safe than sorry kind of thing. I guess she was talking about separating them. I don't know.
But I got the sense that what was happening was they felt like they had two options. Either we have to arrest, she's claiming to be the aggressor, so we are going to have to arrest her.
Yeah.
And I think that they didn't want to arrest her. And so then the feeling was, okay, or we let them go. And then there's the fear of, that terrible thing could happen. And so they're like, well, we could separate them. And what we'll do is we'll separate them. And we'll tell them, don't call each other. Don't say goodnight.
Don't text.
Don't call, don't text. So absolutely, these two are going to listen to that advice. They're going to go get showers, and then they're going to not call each other and then see each other the next day. You know that that wasn't going to happen. And so I felt like someone came up with a solution in between that made them all feel like, yeah, okay, we're not arresting her. We're not doing this. We're not doing that.
But again, you're responding to a phone call, a report of a man hitting a woman.
Yeah.
It's just it's just outrageous.
Yeah. They could have taken both of them in, you don't, just because you arrest them, right? It doesn't mean you have to charge them with anything. You could have taken both of them in and gotten, interviewed them, gotten more information,
yeah.
spent more time on this. Like, you didn't have to fix or solve the problem right then and there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and so sure enough, after the police leave, they meet up that night and they travel to Salt Lake City.
yeah.
And then we meet this guy, Jackson, who's Gabby's ex-boyfriend. And she calls him approximately 10 days after this.
Yeah, August 22nd.
Yeah. And I can't remember how much she told him, but
I don't think she told much of anything. So Brian apparently had to go back to Florida at one point to clean out a storage unit or something. That's weird. So I think Gabby was finally by herself. And so she's by herself and she has moments to think. And I think she was staying in a hotel. And I think she called Jackson. And I think it sounds like she maybe wanted to tell him, but maybe felt shamed or, scared or whatever it is. But she told him, like, I want to leave him. I'm out. I don't want to be in this anymore.
Okay. Yeah. She was in a hotel and working on her videos, and Brian had gone home.
Yeah.
And she said she just needed someone to talk to. Yeah.
So, and it sounds like because she told him, I have a plan and I want to leave him, but she was trying to figure out how to do that. And then on August 27th, which is the day that they believe she died, she, I guess, she Snapchatted Jackson to say, hey, we're in Jackson, Wyoming, thought of you. And then she tried to call him a couple hours later and he couldn't pick up.
Yeah. They have footage of her at a Whole Foods.
Yeah.
She calls her mom. She says Brian is camping alone and she's in the van. She wants to buy him out of the van because he said that she could make more money being a solo female van lifer.
He said that or she said that? I thought she said that. I thought she said it.
Maybe. So I guess this is her plan.
Yes.
She's going to try to, separate herself from him by paying him off for the van and just saying, I'm leaving. But he's not going to accept that.
Yeah. And then we meet this woman and we can skip over this because then we get in a later episode, we get the full timeline. But we meet a woman who on the 29th?
August 28th or 29th?
29th. She was at the Grand Teton Park and going into a church service. I didn't know they had that. And then leaving the park and she saw a young man hitchhiking alone. And he told her he was going to go see his fiance at Spread Creek. And then apparently she's like, oh, I can drive you to where you were staying. And he's like, no. And she barely parks the car and he runs right out. And she said she didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. And so the last time there was any, contact from her was August 25th. And so now, several days have gone by. Her parents are getting worried. They were texting Brian's family, but they were completely ignoring them.
And blocking them.
Yeah.
Like the mom texted and said, hey, what's going on? I can't reach anyone. And then nothing. And then she went back and said, hey, I just want to make sure you're getting this. And then it seemed like she was blocked.
She was blocked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they reported her missing.
Yeah. So that was because it was September 10th that Nicole texted the parents and no one replied. And so finally Gabby's parents called the Florida police officers. And on 9/11 to say, we don't know what to do because this is a bit of a mess, right? You're in New York State. She's living in Florida, but she's actually physically somewhere else. So they call Florida and we see the footage of the officers in Florida going up to the Brian Laundrie's parents' house saying, hi, we're trying to figure out what's going on here. The parents are trying to do that. And the parents essentially are like, they say, we don't know where Gabby is. Brian's here. We're not speaking to anyone.
We have an attorney.
We have an attorney. Here's the attorney's number.
Yeah.
And then to the point where when I guess the officer leaves and he calls to check in and it was a little confusing. There were some political things happening because there was someone else who was like, this is weird. This is fishy. There was one person who on that chain of people that were like, this is weird. This is fishy. They're not answering any questions. So the guy goes back again and tries to get more, asks again about she was told that he flew back.
They got in a fight.
But how is the van here?
Yeah.
What's going on? And that's when they figured out oh, wait, but he's not registered. She's registered on the van. He is.
Well, yeah. And they caught him I guess it was the sister, I think, who said, was it the sister who said that he flew back? But yeah, the van is right there. I mean, there's lying all over the place and refusing to cooperate. And it's like, what are you hiding? They're obviously you're hiding something.
Yes.
So they towed the van. And then it starts to become national news.
Psych Legal Pop will be back after these messages.
Hi, this is Hannah Berner from Giggly Squad. Have you ever put on a bra that makes you feel like a goddess? Prepare to be obsessed with the Dream Angels Wicked Bra from Victoria's Secret, the iconic brand behind the world's most comfortable bras. And I only wear the most comfortable bras. The bestseller features an innovative sling for perfect lift without padding, and the fit is chef's kiss. Awaken your inner goddess with new colors and super femme lace embroidery. Find out why this bra has thousands of 5-star reviews and counting. Shop it in stores and online at victoriasecret.com.
That new thing? Yeah, we've got it. The Drop by GNC, bringing you all the newness that matters, handpicked by the pros who actually know what's up and what's proven to work. We keep you on top of the trends and dialed into what's next. Whether you're crushing it at the gym, leveling up your game, or thriving every day, The Drop by GNC is where the latest solutions in health and wellness land first. Non-stop innovation and fresh finds daily. Explore what's new and what's next on The Drop by GNC.
Yeah, Gabby's parents decided, okay, this is it. We got to get on it. And they did a press conference and they said everything snowballed. And Jim, the stepdad, was sent out to Wyoming. And yeah, I mean,
because the last cell phone ping they got was in the Grand Teton Forest, and which is a huge search area, a very rugged terrain. I think they were able to kind of narrow it down somewhat. And that's when this woman, Loretta Bush from the FBI.
Davis. Bush?
I wrote Loretta Bush.
Oh, I wrote Loretta Davis. Well, either one.
Loretta. She comes in and, she seems to be the first competent law enforcement person.
Very no nonsense.
Yeah, no, she's the FBI.
Yep.
And they're tracking at the same time, they're tracking the laundries, what they're doing and where they're going. And they went on a camping trip.
Yes.
After Brian returned back to Florida, he and his family just went on a camping trip.
And did they take the van on the camping trip?
I hope not.
Oh, that would be disgusting. But yeah. And then we see, so things are getting weirder because then we see, I mean, obviously, this is when people started showing up on the laundries, at the laundry's house, yelling and screaming. And apparently they're bugging his sister. And we see the sister come out of her house and a very hostile reporter asking her all these questions. And apparently the sister's saying, no, we were only up there camping for 6 hours. She said nothing was said. And it sounds like the parents stops talking to the sister.
Yeah.
Because I think the sister was like, what is going on?
Right. She's not in on this.
No. The sister knows nothing. And you can see, even the sister is a little bit like, I don't know. They're not speaking to me. I don't, I felt for her in that moment because this has nothing to do with her. And she, these people are sitting, she's got kids, they're sitting on her doorstep yelling. I mean, I felt like the reporter was interrogating her. It's like, hold on a second. You don't know anything yet, guilt by association.
Yeah. And now they're freaked out because basically Brian is missing, he's not at the laundry home. I don't know where the parents are. They're probably hiding somewhere. He's missing. And, so then my notes get kind of sparse here.
Well, I think then hold on. So then the body cam footage comes out. The Moab body cam footage comes out, and things start to really shift and change because it gave everybody a viewpoint into, wait a second, there's a lot more going on here. And people, and also we see on social media, this is another element of all of this, of how much social media and all these content creators and the fact that everyone comments on everything, ourselves included, that, and people are pissed about the ways in which the police handled that particular situation. And then what happens is on September 17th, the police get a phone call from a neighbor of the Landrys saying something's going on over at that residence. They said that Brian has not been home, and apparently they reported Brian missing. And that's when they finally figured out, that's when they were like, okay, he's been missing. And the Landrys never told us he was missing. And that then they were able to get into his belongings, and they found a letter from his mother that says, burn after reading, which he didn't do. Yeah.
Yeah. Where she basically says, I will help you dispose of a body.
No questions asked.
What a nice offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that wasn't enough to do anything. And the police are kind of like, we need a body.
Yeah.
We've got to find a body before we can go any further. And so this is like this is the start of the final episode. And they're getting like hundreds of tips a day. But now there's another, there was another van life couple.
Yeah. Jen and Kyle Bethune.
They have footage of the van, of Gabby and Brian's van that they took. And so they knew that van had been at a certain place, and the police went there and it matched. The van was gone, but the foliage and the road and how it all looked and everything matched. And so then they were able to narrow their search area even further, down to just this one area. And, they've got people out searching on horseback, going through this river that runs through there. And then that's when they found her body.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So I wrote down the timeline. This is what they believe happened. Because it was ruled a homicide, and she died from blunt force trauma and strangulation. So from what they can piece together, on August 27th at 1:00, they went to that Mary Piglet's. That place, unfortunately, where Gabby says it made her sick. So I'm like, this is great publicity for Mary Piglet's. Poor place.
Yeah, poor Mary Piglet's. What did they do?
Anyway, so they were at Mary Piglet's at 1 p.m. A witness said that they saw them argue, that Brian was pissed off, that Gabby was crying. At 1:45, Gabby calls Jackson. At 2:13, we see a video of them going to Whole Foods. We see them wandering through Whole Foods. And then they apparently drove from Whole Foods up to Spread Creek until about 6 o'clock. We see the footage from that other van life couple, the Bethunes, from 6 to 6:30, where the van is on the side of the road. So they know that's where they were. 7:15, she sends her last text to her mom about how she can make more money as a van solo lifer. And then at 8:52, we see, 8:32, they see Gabby moving video files, which they feel confident that it's her because she does this. Like, this is a very common thing she does at the end of each day. And then that's it. After that, there's no text messages, no usage, no nothing. And then on August 28th, Brian hikes from Spread Creek to Coulter Bay camping area, and takes pictures, some of like flowers and lakes, and then others of dead carcass animals. And then on August 29th, Brian calls his mom and speaks to her for 55 minutes. And the dad then calls an attorney. And there's all these like phone calls back and forth with them. And then as Brian is hiking along that day, he is sending Gabby messages. Basically,
trying to create an alibi.
Trying to create an alibi.
Sure, his mom gave him that bright idea.
Yeah. And then on August 29th at 5:55 p.m., Brian is picked up by Miranda Baker. She gives a report, gave him a ride to Jackson. And then 8:29 at 6:30, that's the woman that we meet earlier who had gone to the church services, Norma Jean. She picks up Brian and drives him to the entrance of Spread Creek. The thing that's so weird is, you remember he asked Norma Jean originally, I'm going to Jackson, or I'm going farther north. I wonder if by that point he was like, well, I'll just leave the van here and I'm going to try to get on a plane and actually fly back. But then he's like, oh crap, she drove me back here. Let me just get on the van and I'll drive home. I wonder if she was willing to give him a ride, if he would have just tried to get on a plane or something. I don't know.
I know. He had to get rid of the van somehow or do something.
Yeah, he had to do something. So, and this is when, and he's creating an alibi, because then he's got the phone side by side and he's texting Gabby. Gabby's texting him back and forth, lovey-dovey messages, which we see this very commonly. And then August 30th, Brian leaves Wyoming to Florida. And then he uses her debit card to pay for all of the gas on the way home. And then Gabby zells $700 to Brian with the message, I'll never ask you for anything again. So he's stealing her money now. And this is part of creating his alibi. Right. I guarantee you this was all the mom's idea.
Yeah.
She probably asked them, well, what was the last fight? What happened? And I am sure Brian said to them, I don't know. I just snapped. I'm sure he made up some excuse of why he did it. And they were like, okay, we'll cover for you. These people are awful.
They are awful.
And then September 23rd, they have to, the problem that they're having is they've got her body, but now they've got to find him. And now that they've uncovered, they have enough evidence now that they can put out an arrest warrant for Brian on September 23rd. We get to see Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Oh, God. That
was a lot.
Did anyone ask for him?
No.
Why was he there?
No. I guarantee you that was his wife filming him. There's no TV show.
No.
But I love these people who just show up for, I'm just going to help.
I'm Dog the Bounty Hunter. For crying out loud.
So now they have to figure out, and they have to retrace, because they got to find Brian. So they're like, now we have to retrace his steps. So apparently he went hiking or camping by himself on September 14th. His parents never reported him missing. And that was, so
for 3 days.
Yeah. So it wasn't until the 17th that things were reported, not by the parents, but by that neighbor, apparently. So he had been gone for 3 days. And he had taken their Mustang, one of their cars, parked it at this park that he likes to go to. And then it was sitting there for so long, it was getting tickets to the police. So I guess they didn't realize that then the parents pick up the car and bring the car back home. I mean, the whole thing is so weird. And how those parents got in and out of that house every day so casually. They're wearing baseball hats but they're basically just going about their lives, with the mask on, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. I mean,
they're
unreal.
Horrible, horrendous people.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was missing for 37 days.
Yeah, but the park had flooded.
They finally find him, I think, October 20th.
Yeah,
his remains. He wasn't in his car. A mile from where the car was, he committed suicide from a gunshot wound to the head.
What I thought was so weird is the FBI person, she told us about how much they searched, people waiting for days and days and days in water up to their chest, looking for Brian's body. And then finally the park is open. The Landrys at 7 a.m. get there the first day it's open, and they find his body within 2 hours.
Well, maybe that's not where he died.
Weird. Yeah. Well,
maybe
obviously
they dumped
did.
it. They dumped his body there.
Oh,
maybe.
you think maybe he Maybe
Although
he
I think-
shot himself at home.
Yeah. And then they just dumped it there. Although they're not smart enough to be able to the FBI forensics would have figured out, I think, that, I don't know, maybe they did outsmart. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past them.
I don't think they did. I think what happened was that once that camera footage came out, hold on, because 9/13, 9/14. Okay. So I want to say it was around the September 14th, 15th, around. So I think what happened was this, was that the Landrys are bebopping along. Brian thinks maybe, things are heating up. Everyone's looking for Gabby. Oh no, what should I do? I'm sure he was already feeling a little suicidal or a lot suicidal. Mm-hmm. They're trying to figure it out. I think that the minute that body cam footage hit the air, which happened around the 14th, when he actually disappeared, I think he was like, I'm never going to make it out. I don't want to face, I'm going to get caught. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to go to prison. I'm going to be hated. So I'm going to end it. And whether he told his parents or not, I think he said, I'm going to kill myself. Give me a gun. Give me the car. And I'm going to go to my favorite hike and I'm going to die there. Because that's how they knew. I'm going to go hike this trail and I'm going to do it somewhere on this trail. Mm-hmm. They said goodbye. And then the minute they could get into the place, that the parents found him. They were like, okay, we'll recover all of his stuff. Maybe. I think they knew very much because they knew exactly where to go to. But what drives me crazy about these parents is, you mean that, and I don't know who pays for this, but we had how many people from the FBI searching for 40 days? Right. And you all knew exactly where he was? Do you know what I mean? The amount of resources that were used to do this. And these people, I feel like these people should have been hit with some kind of lawsuit. That doesn't seem fair. But they couldn't prove anything, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's awful. It's ridiculous. These people are monsters. And then they found a notebook or some letters that he wrote to his family. Again, maybe this was under whose direction this was under, who knows, but describes what happened to Gabby, makes it sound like she was drowning or in pain. And he ended her life mercifully. Yes. Doing her a favor. And then he knew he couldn't go on without her. I mean, give me a break. Again, I feel like the mom told him to write this. Yeah. Because he's not.
Yeah. Well, I think his mom, I think Brian told his parents a version of the story that made him seem innocent, but still guilty.
Or and less culpable,
less culpable, as we've all seen. And then I think that she then said, well, you need some sort of note or explanation. So, just do it like this. This is essentially what you did, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. He wrote a bunch of other gobbledygook too, trying to make people feel sorry for him. And he specifically says, do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter. Again, this is the mother telling him to write this stuff and to stage it. And, sorry to her family. I love them. Her siblings are my best friends. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
Give me a break. So what does I have here? August 29th, a flurry of calls to his parents.
Oh, this is where they start. This is where we learn about what happened, which was, I already mentioned that.
Okay, this was part of your timeline. Yeah. Okay.
So, and then it's just the end is in October of 2022, her entire family, both sets of families, and it looks like they have kids. I figured as much. That I don't know if Joe and his new wife have kids, but it looks like the mom, Nicole, has 3 more kids.
They had 3 kids, yeah.
With her husband, Jim. And so everyone goes out and spreads Gabby's ashes, and they were there, and they take this picture of everybody, and there's this orb in the middle, and you can believe it was the sun shining or something else. Believe whatever you want to believe. But But at the very end, I thought this was interesting. And I was hoping they would take a little more time with this because I felt like it went really quickly. But one of the things with the Gabby Petito story that brought up, and this story has come up many times, but I think Gabby Petito's story really brought it up in a big way, which was this idea of the missing white woman syndrome, that every time, especially young and pretty and blonde, you know, when someone like this disappears, the whole world is watching. There was so much coverage. There was so much news across the country. Everyone had something to say about it. And we see a news clip from a woman, I'm sorry, I didn't write her name down, but an author who wrote a book about the fact that, like, listen, Gabby Petito is important and it's an important story, but every single day, you know, a tremendous amount of women of color and men of color go missing and no one's paying attention.
Indigenous people, especially, those numbers are off the charts for...
Yeah. So they believe that 45% of the people that go missing every year are a person of color. And they are not the stories that are being reported. And I thought it was interesting because we hear from Joe, the dad, who was very honest. He said, you know, at first it hurt, you know, I was mad. I'm like, why isn't my daughter important? But then he was like, but it hit me, and I started listening, and I started realizing that, you know, we got to figure out how to use this for some good. And this is where we are now, where the parents are proposed this bill, and they started the Gabby Petito Foundation, and as a way of spreading the word.
So there was two, I think there were two bills that passed. There was one in Utah that would require police to ask 11 questions to determine if intimate partner is at risk of being hurt or killed. And I'm not sure if that ever got signed into law. That was vague. But then in Florida, they passed this 12 mandatory questions.
Ooh, what's the extra question? That's what I want to know.
I don't know the difference between the two, but I'll read a few of these. I won't read all 12 because it's kind of long, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because I was really intrigued by that, because I was like, God, how fascinating. Like, what questions, I really would love to know what the questions are, because it's like, what questions could someone ask? Like, especially if we look back at that Moab situation, right? Yeah. Like, what should they have asked that would have given them the information that they didn't have already? Because what I thought was, I really felt like you had a lot of information. And I know it's easier for us now knowing what the end of the story is. Like, it's very different when you're in the middle of it and it's your job and you don't want to ruin someone's life and, you know, you're trying to be responsible. But at the same time, I was just a little bit like, what more questions would change things for you? So anyway.
Well, I think there's two parts of this. That more questions do need to be asked, but also it's the way that they did it. That out there on the road, on the side of the road, they're just trying to figure out what to do. That's not the way to handle it. Like you said, they should have taken them back to the station, not arrested them, but taken them back to the station, separated them, and let everybody calm down. And like Gabby was asking, can I call my mom? You know, that's heartbreaking. Yeah. You know, let her call her mom. You know, let her calm down, let her feel comfortable. And then you can start asking these questions, and hopefully she will at least be honest about some of it. Because again, she's not going to be 100% honest because she's trying to protect him. She's afraid of him. So it's complicated, but here are the questions. And these questions are heavy because this is a heavy subject. This does lead to death. Okay. So 1, did the aggressor ever use a weapon against you or threaten you with a weapon? 2, did the aggressor ever threaten to kill you or your children? 3, do you believe the aggressor will try to kill you? 4, has the aggressor ever choked you or attempted to choke you? That was the cause of death for Gabby. 5, does the aggressor have a gun, or could the aggressor easily obtain a gun? And just going back for a minute, there's a scene in the documentary early on where she is shooting a gun out of the window of a car when she's with him. And I'm sure that was his gun.
Yeah, which seemed real dangerous to me. What if someone's in those bushes? How do you know no one's in those bushes?
I know, it's very negligent. Yeah. But so he probably did have a gun. Number 6, is the aggressor violently or constantly jealous? Or does the aggressor control most of your daily activities? Number 7, did you leave or separate from the aggressor after you were living together or married? 8, is the aggressor unemployed? 9, to the best of your knowledge, has the aggressor ever attempted suicide? 10, do you have a child whom the aggressor believes is not the aggressor's biological child? 11, has the aggressor ever followed, spied on, or left threatening messages for you? And 12, is there anything else that worries you about your safety? And if so, what worries you?
So my question is, are those questions, you said the aggressor. So in this particular situation, Gabby was saying she was the aggressor. So for example, in that situation, would those questions be only to Brian? Or is the idea of the law, and maybe you probably don't know this, but like that's what I want to know is both people should be asked these questions, right?
Well, I mean, if each person is claiming that they're the aggressor, then I guess so. But again, the police here, they responded to reports of a man hitting a woman, and they acted like and then they got to the scene and they got bamboozled.
Yeah.
By this idiot Brian, who's trying to say that, oh, see these scratches on my head? You know, she was hitting me. I'm the victim. I mean, come on. They just so quickly wanted to just jump onto his side. I mean, this was horrendous. They should play this video as like how not to ever conduct police work.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so awful. It was clear. Okay, let's just look at statistics, just pure statistics. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but upwards of 90% of domestic violence victims are women. If you're talking about a heterosexual relationship. This idea when they try to say, and I'm not saying that it never happens, but again, you're responding to a report of a man hitting a woman. Several reports. I think there was more than one person who called 911. Okay, and the woman is very upset. He's cool as a cucumber. Cool as a cucumber.
She has marks on her. She has.
Yes.
So, and that's the other part of it too. He has scratches on him, but they took those, but simply because he said he was the aggressor. But this is the problem with this particular situation, right? Is that she claimed that she was the aggressor. So by law, I'm just wondering those questions. Do you have to ask those questions? Do you as the police officer, do you get to decide who the aggressor is?
I don't know.
There's some flaws in all this. So,
did she say she was the aggressor? I don't think she said that. I think she acknowledged that she was upset. She said she was having a hard time. She was very anxious. She was experiencing the OCD. But the bottom line is he then reacted to that by trying to lock her out of the car. Okay, well, who's the aggressor now? And she was trying, she wasn't trying to say she was the aggressor. She was just trying to minimize what was happening and minimize the abuse because she didn't want him to get arrested.
Yeah, because she would be, because if he had gotten arrested, then she would have been, and because he would have been released, she would have been in trouble. In trouble. She'd be alone in trouble. No, I'm not disputing that. I'm just wondering about like, how do we determine who the aggressor is? But I think this was very much a case of extreme biases. And like for biasy training, this would be a great video because a few things. If these two were black,
they'd both be
brown,
arrested.
They'd both be arrested. We don't know. Okay. So the fact that they were white, I feel like they got a very nice treatment. And then the other one was with bias is with Brian, because Brian doesn't look like a quote unquote threatening person. Yeah.
He just looks like this kind of clean cut all-American guy.
And his demeanor is such that he's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. And I think that that's another one too, is I think we have this is why understanding our own biases, it makes me crazy when people say, oh, I'm not racist. I'm not this, I'm not that. It's like, no, we are all these things. We have biases. Our brains, if you have a brain, you have bias. Like our brains need to sort things out like this. The problem is that if you are not aware of your biases, if you're not aware of where your thoughts are going to go and you can't correct them, this is when these kinds of mistakes happen, because I think they saw Brian and then I think they saw her And they even admitted, like, she's 110 pounds. Like, yeah. And she's the aggressor, but whatever. But I think the other thing was that she admitted that she said, oh, I'm really anxious. I have OCD. So I think they were like mental illness. So now this is,
Right,
and then he jumps on that. And then we've got this cop who seems to have an anxious wife. I wonder why, who is anxious all the time and needs to take a lot of showers. I'm sorry, but buddy, just makes me laugh. I'm like, you ever wonder why she needs to shower so much? Maybe she's trying to get away from you.
Yeah, she spends some alone time. Yeah.
But you can see, right? Like in these cases of biases, and then their brains, and your brain starts to form this story, and then one person has the story, and whomever has the power of all of those cops, their story becomes what is reality. It's just, this is the stuff that really, if we want to change our world, if we want to understand each other better, if we want big change to happen, we have to understand this. And this is what we have to start. It's stop and change.
Because they say at the end that in the U.S., nearly 1/2 of all women will experience intimate partner violence at some point in their lives. That's unacceptable. That's outrageous. Yeah. Half? I mean, I knew it was a lot. Half?
Yeah. And I think I think also now that the definition has been expanded, I think people always think that hitting and physical force
coercive control
is sort of like what is domestic violence. But, and I do believe that in any of these situations, you will eventually get there. But there are a lot of people that are in, relationships that are incredibly, incredibly abusive. It's just verbal abuse and
financial abuse,
putting you down, I mean, and it does not matter what color you are. It does not matter your background. It does not matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
Happens to everybody.
Yeah, it sure does. And finally, in 2022, the Petito Schmidt family filed a wrongful death case against Roberta and Chris Laundrie, ended in a settlement in 2024.
Wow.
So,
yeah,
I hope that this helped in some way, towards this issue. I really do like these questions. I think every police department should adopt something like that. And it just shows you how much more training, even after the O.J. Simpson case, there was a huge amount of reform in police departments and district attorneys' offices. And, there was actually, they got grant money for, educating their lawyers and cops more about domestic violence and how to recognize it and what to do and how to handle it and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still like, I'm looking at this video of these cops and how they're handling the situation. And you'd think it was 30 or 40 years ago, not modern day.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's a real problem. We talk about this too, when it comes to juries, which is it's a very, very common biases that we all have, which is we tend to believe that people should handle things the way that we should handle them.
Right.
And so it's a big problem, is until we can stop assuming that we know what we would do in this exact situation. And I think that's the stuff that police officers, that's the training that they need. And I also think there needs to be training on, sitting with the discomfort of things. I mean, as a therapist, this is what we're trained to do, is we can sit with a lot of discomfort. Like, I can have uncomfortable conversations. And that's the thing is that I think a lot of times there's this drive and desire, and I'm understanding you have a lot of pressure being a police officer, but this drive and desire of like, we have to fix this right now.
Right.
Like, why did we have to decide all, you've got like 4 or 5 police officers. Why did all of this need to be done on the side of this highway? It looked like it was in the middle of the day. So it's a little bit like, but I think they felt this pressure or this idea. So I think the training that they need is, learning how to be in uncomfortable situations and be in that. And also stop believing that how someone else is going to handle things or how you can handle it. And even that cop was giving the same advice that he gives to other people. Like, it's like cookie cutter advice.
Yeah. It's like,
take a shower. Like, you don't know anything.
You don't have all the answers. Every case is different. Every person is different. You don't know these people. You've only talked to them for a few minutes and you don't have enough information. Go back to the station. Let's everybody calm down and talk this out.
Yeah.
Get some more information.
Can have lunch.
Yeah.
People always feel better after lunch, and
at least get a Coke or something.
Yeah.
God, I know. No, instead we're going to figure this out in 10 minutes on the side of the highway.
Yeah. And it's interesting that not one of them stopped and went, wait a second, we're going to let the man go. Yeah. I mean, even if you quote unquote thought she was the aggressor, why would you then let her go? Let sleep her be in a van? Hotel or sleep in a van
by herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
God. Sorry, Gabby.
Yeah.
You deserve better than this.
Yes. Well, I don't know. The family obviously is coping but I just, I can't imagine what must be such a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear that from the mom. The mom's like, Gabby speaks to her and tells her, don't worry about me. That's hard.
That's very hard.
All right. Well, I enjoy these American Murders. They're just pumping them out, Netflix.
Yeah. Thank you, Netflix.
Yeah. They just OJ and now this and all that good stuff. So if you enjoy our podcast, please give us and you haven't already, please go to Apple and give us a 5-star rating and review. Those really do help us. You can get more content from us over on Patreon. You can follow us on social media at PsychLegalPop on TikTok and Instagram and Blue Sky and Facebook. And spread the word, tell a friend about the podcast, and we will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Hi, this is Hannah Berner from Giggly Squad. Have you ever put on a bra that makes you feel like a goddess? Prepare to be obsessed with the Dream Angel's Wicked Bra from Victoria's Secret, the iconic brand behind the world's most comfortable bras. And I only wear the most comfortable bras. The bestseller features an innovative sling for perfect lift without padding, and the fit is chef's kiss. Awaken your inner goddess with new colors and super femme lace embroidery. Find out why this bra has thousands of 5-star reviews and counting. Shop it in stores and online at victoriassecret.com.
That new thing? Yeah, we've got it. The Drop by GNC, bringing you all the newness that matters, handpicked by the pros who actually know what's up and what's proven to work. We keep you on top of the trends and dialed into what's next. Whether you're crushing it at the gym, leveling up your game, or thriving every day, The Drop by GNC is where the latest solutions in health and wellness land first. Non-stop innovation and fresh finds daily. Explore what's new and what's next on The Drop by GNC.